I'm on set today with Michelle Cermak, behavioral, let me get this right, certified behavioral therapist. Do I got that right?
Licensed professional counselor.
And this is
super close, super close though.
This is unbelievable. I'm already messing this up. When I was looking at your stuff, I just thought how interesting it was. And there's so many different letters that go into your name, which makes you sound super smart, by the way, which I love. So tell me again, what is it exactly?
I am a licensed professional counselor.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? What does licensed professional counselors do? What kind of stuff do you get into?
So I think we all find our own niches after grad school. And so mine has definitely been in regulating the nervous system. So from our whole lives, we grow up and we start having these beliefs and thoughts, and those get stuck in the body. And so when new triggers come in, new experiences, we tend to go to fight, flight, freeze, or finding a substance of any sort to suppress that, in the freeze or the fight, whatever that looks like. So our whole entire nervous systems are completely dysregulated. And so using anything from talk therapy to breath work to mindfulness techniques to come back into regulation and wholeness and remembering like who we are.
I love that. I'm going to read something I rarely read on the show, but there's something off your website that I gathered, and we're going to definitely tag and post and add all that stuff to our social media type stuff. But I want to read this because this was powerful and one of the reasons I have you on the show today. And it says that my goal is to show you how the helplessness, go back on this. My goal is to show you how the helplessness, rage, and collapse from past imprints can be transformed through physical experiences and restore your hope for a brighter future filled with joy, purpose, and meaning.
Yes.
Wow, that's so good. I love the language, and I had to read it because I think about the fact that people are looking for purpose, joy, and meaning. It's not just the substance that my audience is running from or a toxic relationship. It can come in so many different forms, and ultimately what I'm trying to say is I want to feel good about me. I want to feel good about my life, purpose. Tell me a little bit about what was going through your mind when you write something like that on paper.
I think most of us are so scared to feel joy, because who am I? We really live in this world of like, do I deserve this? And am I good enough? And we live with these masks on, right? Of like, I'm not good enough. I'm not perfect. I'm not worthy. And all this like imposter syndrome. And then for us to really experience true joy and bliss is kind of scary. It goes back to like that Marianne Williamson poem. And it's not our fear of failure. It's our fear of success. Who am I to be extraordinary? That really holds us back. And so to like get into the body and like figure out where that is being stored, to release that, to even find the belief of what does that mean? And where does that show up in your life and break through all of that in so many different ways? It's super powerful. It's been probably some of the most powerful work I've done with myself that I've seen lasting results that I want to share with others.
You hit on something that's very important yourself. You've seen this actually work. So this isn't some type of, let's, gas and figure it out. You've actually seen it work in your own life. Tell me a little bit about that. What was that experience for you like?
So, I've been a therapist licensed since 2012.
Okay.
I refused to go into private practice in the beginning because I didn't believe I was ever going to be good enough to take anybody through the process of healing. I hid out in residential treatment centers that I ran and psych hospitals and just thought like my own negative beliefs all the time. And I was completely and utterly dysregulated all the time. I was still a good therapist and still a great worker and like all the things. And I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have been better, right? If I wasn't living in this world of my own toxicity. Over the last few years, I've been really doing the work on myself and in really taking a deeper dive into my body And what I bring to my clients are all the tools that I've learned from all my mentors and teachers, that like had me in tears, and realizing like once I acknowledged what was there and did the work to break through it, like it didn't feel good at the time. Obviously, like nobody wants us to confront that like pain, right?
Right.
But to like go through it and to realize where I'm at today, like the transformation, if you would have met me a decade ago, you would have been like, I don't want to be her friend. And like,
Same.
yeah, right? Like, it's all of the work, it's the journey, and it's the baby steps, and it's 1% better today. And I always say I went to yoga school to heal myself. My purpose obviously was to be a yoga teacher. I actually never teach a flow class. I do other healing modalities through yoga. However, that was part of my transformation. It was like stepping into a different place. Like you were talking about a young girl who took a welding class and it changed her life. So here I am one day scrolling on Facebook and I'm like, yoga teacher training. I'm going to go. And my family was all like, you're going to yoga school? Like, what is wrong with you? And they were super supportive, and God bless them, because there was a lot to be revealed. And during that process, like I'm in school and I started doing a deep dive on myself, and I started apologizing to my daughter all the time. I'm so sorry, it's a terrible mom. And she's like, you were a great mom, leave it alone. But in that face of all the things that like were holding me back, were coming to realizations. And like, I didn't believe I was good enough. I didn't believe I was worthy. I didn't believe that I could do extraordinary things. And today, I don't believe there's anything I can't accomplish.
Oh, that's a lot.
So, I don't know. I started dreaming a million dreams a year ago, and they're all manifesting.
Right. Well, I mean, it starts with a dream, right? And if today somebody isn't going to pick up a substance that they don't want to, if they're not going to get in a relationship, put that thing in their body, or eat, or whatever their gamble, whatever their, I'm going to say influences or substances of choices are, if they don't do that today, they might heal just 1%. You hit on that. That's a super simple way of looking at it. I'm just getting better today than I was yesterday. Right. And as you start talking about these modalities and these things that we do, how do we get back to that core level where you and I both know there's pain, whether that's 2 years ago, 20 years ago, childhood trauma, all of that sort of stuff exists. How does one uncover and discover some of those things about their themselves, really?
How? Everyone finds it in different ways.
Okay.
So I don't think there's one way is cookie cutter. I, as a professional counselor, support that world. I'm also in the energy world and support like yoga therapy and yoga coaching and that healing modality. And I believe it's like all the things. And it's just the willingness to try them all. I know like in the beginning of my journey, it was yoga therapy, it was acupuncture, it was healing crystals. If someone told me to drink some woo-woo water, I would have been like, okay, I'm in. Like it was, I finally noticed that like I was not okay. And I was willing to do whatever it took. And if my coach or therapist said, jump on one foot, I was like, I'll jump on one foot.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. I was that much like, this has got to change. And so I think for people, it's just the noticing that something's off and the willingness to be brave and uncomfortable and pick up a phone and call someone and start the process with anyone, anywhere. Either, it could be just showing up at a meeting at AA, which I want to say not just, because that's probably one of the hardest things to do, is to show up at a meeting and acknowledge that there's something wrong.
Right.
Or to pick up the phone and talk to a counselor. Those things are not just, that phone is super heavy. And then to tell people around you that you're getting support is like another whole layer of of pain, right? Because we don't want to be judged. Because if I'm judged and I'm vulnerable, then you can throw me away and like not want to be a part of my life if you don't think I'm perfect. And then it creates this like fear of aloneness, which we've already created anyway.
Right. We already were alone.
We're already alone, except we've put ourselves in this place like, oh, everyone sees me, but I feel alone. And then if I'm vulnerable and I tell people things, then they would see me in a different way and they'd leave.
Right. We're always being judged. I mean, you're talking about that. And it's so crazy that we're always being judged in whatever forum. Like right now, somebody's watching this podcast for the first time and they're judging both of us, right? And it's kind of like, I don't want to be judged, but yet you're going to be judged anyway. So why not be judged on a journey to heal, right? Why not be judged on the steps that you're taking to become a better version of yourself? I love that you said that. All pain is temporary. My friend Jay Shetty said that. Like, all pain is temporary. And when you just start realizing that this too will pass, like that idea that this pain of like telling somebody that I'm broken, like I don't want to do that. But when I do, I'm so free. And like, and you talked about like kind of punching through those fears of like, I don't know how this is going to feel. You certainly have been doing this a long time, right? A long time, and have had a lot of experiences. No one knows how that's going to feel, except for they know it probably is going to feel better than it did yesterday, right?
Yeah, I come from the thing of pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so I got that from like my personal growth program that I worked through, so I want to give them a little prop. I didn't make that up.
Good. Well, we would plagiarize a little bit on this.
Yeah.
The show.
I'm like, I didn't make that one.
We'll put it at the end. It's in the fine print.
You know, I think it comes back to one of the things that I learned was I am whole and complete as I am. And I love the work of Dr. Kamini Desai. She was my yoga nidra guru. I fangirl over her. I love her. And she says that like we are like the ocean, right? I identify who I am based upon all of my experiences. Those experiences are the top of the ocean. Those are the waves. I've decided that I had this experience and I'm going to identify as that. Okay. And then what we forget though is we are the whole entire ocean. We are vast and infinite and complex, and we have so much more than that is who I am. And I think, you know, going back to the welder, she already decided in her mind she was going to be a doctor, and I'm a cheerleader, and I'm blonde, and I'm perfect, and I'm all these things. Those are all these ways that she was told from society, from school, which she identified as. And to like break into welding was going to take a lot of courage and bravery, and it was going to be uncomfortable to be like, I'm changing the trajectory of my life. I know I said I was going to be a surgeon, and now I'm going to be a welder. And to change that I am statement of that wave, that takes a lot. And there's like sensations in the body. Like I could even just picture for her that it's like in my throat and my chest to be like, Mom and Dad, I'm no longer going to medical school. I'm going to be a welder. And like how hard that conversation was going to be, because what if they lose their minds over this and they don't support me?
When I struggle with things like addiction and substance abuse, okay, where is it that you now bridge that gap and I say, okay, I've stopped using that substance, and then I move into the arena of a counselor or someone like yourself coming alongside? What does that look like?
In my profession of like where I take clients is the curiosity behind what was that substance being used for, right? Like, so if I'm eating chocolate cake,
right?
One, what was the trigger to bring me to chocolate cake? And that trigger comes with thoughts and feelings and whatever it is. And it's really coming into the awareness of the mind and body to want the chocolate cake. Because if we're not clearing up all the negative beliefs about ourselves, it doesn't matter if it's chocolate cake, cocaine, or alcohol. We're going to find something else to replace it with, right? like it's not healed and we haven't released that blockage. We just found something else to replace it with until such time like we're able to clear it up. So it's really coming back into what are my beliefs about myself? What are about my beliefs about where I'm at in my world? And when that comes in, what are my thoughts, right? Like if I already believe I'm not good enough and we're sitting here and someone out there, hi everybody, says, oh my God, she's stupid or dumb. And I already believe that. And they just came in and triggered me to believe that. I'm going to run and use a substance, right? Because I don't want to feel that. And so it's kind of clearing out, like now, if someone says all that about me, my curiosity would be, are you doing any work? And who are you to judge me? Right. And that's okay that you have that opinion. And I would rather listen to you and be like, oh, tell me why. Than before I would have been hiding in a shell or fighting. A little New York feisty comes out. I'll be like, your butt. Right. So I'll go back to my old behaviors until I create new ones.
Wow, that's a great way of saying it. Like we have to create new ones. These journeys and these paths as they continue, we don't know where they're going to take us, right? And so you go, hey, I'm going to try yoga for the experience of maybe, body. I'm getting a little bit more physically in shape. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, you were talking before the show about the breathing process and some of what goes into that. Take me through some of that other cognitive behaviors that you go through with somebody in a training or could possibly be part of your, I'm going to say treatment. Is that, am I using the right language? I don't know what
I just support people through their healing journey in so many different ways.
I don't want to misuse any of the words. So you tell me, because guess what? You're not stupid. You're super smart.
Thank you.
And right. You're beautiful. What do you want? Any other affirmations today?
No, okay. I'm good. I said them all this morning. However, you can definitely reinforce them. I am open.
Feel free to comment on the section below. Only nice stuff. We're going to forward them to her. She'll feel great about herself. Back to any of the beyond just against not doing something. Okay, so I don't want to do this behavior. What are the other avenues that you're going to take, journeys that you're going to take somebody on, other than just mental thoughts?
So there's a lot. Usually in the very beginning of how I work, my process of healing is exploring negative beliefs. And I teach everybody a breathing technique, a body scan, and what's called safe place. And so with that, one, if we can always come back to the breath and pause, then we can go from reaction to response. Okay. So it's when that trigger comes in, our body is being filled with like adrenaline and norepinephrine and all the things. And if we can just pause and go from reaction to response, then I am powerful. I take back my control of myself, and that's a big deal. I want to be in control. I personally like being in control of myself. Other people might not feel that way, but that's like a big deal for me, is I am powerful. And so if I pause and I breathe, one, I'm bringing my nervous system back into regulation. And there's so much research on the vagus nerve. So as I breathe in, and you breathe in and your belly gets full, there's a part that's like in your diaphragm that hits the vagus nerve that tells the amygdala, which is your fight, flight, or freeze, to slow down. Okay. So if I can pause for 3 minutes and breathe and let this adrenaline pass through me, then I have more control and more power. So one, it's that. And then two, body scans, it starts with like noticing all 10 toes and then just going up your whole entire body from your toes to your feet, ankles, knees. If I'm thinking of my toes, I can't be thinking of the rat race that's in my brain, right? So it's continuously noticing, one, my brain's on fire. And now I have power to change that, because everyone's like, well, my thoughts just go and they have control over me. And the reality is we control our thoughts. We control our breath. And when we learn that and we have the tools to come back to my toes and my brain's over here, but I can come back to the breath in my toes and my feet and my ankles. Now I have control because I'm not in reaction. I'm able to pause and respond. And a lot of that, if you think about it, if you're at work and you're in a boardroom and something comes in, breathing, or even just like thinking of your feet is a great coping skill because no one's going to notice it. With Safe Place that I always teach, it's about imagining a place that is safe for you. What does it feel like? What do you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? All your senses are in that one place. And it's a beautiful little script that I use. And then we go through it. And a lot of times it's the beach or the woods. I've had other weird ones. Like I smell dirt. Okay. That's a little bit harder, but like they're camping. And so whatever it is, and I'm like, get some hand sanitizer, go to Bath and Body Works, especially at this day and age, hand sanitizer, anyone can use, right? And they're all flavored and smelly. So as we use the hand sanitizer, you're inhaling. Right. In addition, the sense of smell is the most powerful sense that we have in our body, which is why Starbucks has made millions of dollars off of pumpkin lattes. Yeah. Who doesn't like the smell of fall? Right. Simple. Right. It's so simple that we think of fall and you're like, oh, cozy fireplace. Like you get this whole sense of comfy. Right. So using that same idea. And so say if it is the beach, so then we're at Bath and Body Works, we're getting like 200 pounds of beach hand sanitizer. So when you're in the boardroom and you're upset, use the hand sanitizer. And now you're inhaling the smell of the beach and it's reminding your brain of your safe place. Wow. So, or even different grounding techniques. I'm like, a lot of women will have a necklace. So it's like touch your necklace, or can you wear a bracelet that has a shell on it? Or what is going to be the trigger to remind your brain that you're okay, that you can touch?
That's super cool to think about, because that's what happens is we take ourselves pretty quickly on a journey. And I'm only speaking for myself. I can take myself to some dark places pretty quick, right? I can spin myself out of control. Like it was a little frustrating. That turns into anger, turns into rage, turns into fight. And it's so quickly how I can grow that. It's a temporary process of what I'm putting myself through, and a quick process to unwind where I want to be. Tell me about, I've now learned some of the response versus react, right? I think that's really a great first step in any type of recovery situation is we just want to react. Like, again, I can take this substance and all my problems go away, right? Every voice I hear is shut down. The chemical in my body, and it's over. In reality, after that happens, okay, I've responded, I've taken some deep breath. Tell me the next kind of event that's going to take place that you're going to walk some of your clients through in the therapy session.
So yeah, it goes to, what do I have control over? So it's controlling myself, choosing something different, and then looking at the experience in a different way, right? So we kind of talked about victim versus responsible. Okay. And when I can see my part, I get to have a different behavior and a different consequence, right? So now I've just changed the whole trajectory of that meeting. So if it is the boardroom and I usually react one way and now I'm responding, it's naturally going to flow differently, right? So we'll have a different outcome. And so before I reacted to you and I then allowed all of this anger and resentment to fill inside of me, all of those behaviors and consequences are going to have a natural flow. If I change the behavior, and I change the perception, so the consequence is different, right? So now I've just changed my life. And then the other part is, what did I notice about myself? What did I learn from that experience? And those are more like the cognitive behavioral things of having control and behavior cognitively. What did I notice about myself because I got the job or I didn't get the job?
I like that.
Right? So I didn't get the job, but I've noticed that I'm brave and I'm courageous and I am good enough. And like, geez, I spoke eloquently during that interview, or you know what, that wasn't a good fit. And I'm glad I didn't get it because I got this, or whatever that is. And I was ready to choose myself, and I don't need you to choose me anymore.
Right. And I think you control that a lot at that soul level that only you know, right? You go like, you blew it. Like I've had a lot of times where I go like, ooh, that was awful. And then I'll have somebody go, hey, that was pretty good. I'm glad you said that. And I'm just kind of like, wow, I put so much pressure on myself to say the right things, do the right things. But it's in here where I start kind of twisting that up, balling up, right? And again, that leads to another feeling of like perfection. Oh, maybe I am what my daddy said about me, or maybe that teacher that told me I wasn't good enough or wasn't smart enough is coming. It's like it's boiling up. It's boiling up to me not measuring up again, and I start feeling a certain way. When in reality, like, well, I just gotta learn from that. Like, okay, what do you want to do better next time? And if that's controlling, taking control back over substance, relationship, behavior, right? I use that language a lot because I think that my addiction, my behavior can come in several different forms, right? Just because I haven't done drugs or drank in a long time doesn't mean that I still don't have emotions, feelings, right? And
well,
so
thank God you have some.
Right? I would hope so, right? Like,
you would be an antisocial narcissist, probably in prison for murder if you didn't. So good for you.
Good. Yeah, like I won. Good.
You did win. That's a huge win for you to even acknowledge that you have feelings and emotions, for you to acknowledge that I didn't show up the way that I should have, or I want to. There is no should. I don't always like that word. You didn't like the way you showed up.
Okay.
Right? Because you're aware of that, now you have control to do something different.
That's good. That's free. Like, it's freedom. I think that's the biggest thing that I got when I walked into the room. I got sober in an AA room, and certainly that room carried me a certain distance. But then I realized at some point, like, they're just trying to talk about me not using a substance. But I need to heal. I need to recover, right? I need to still feel good about myself. Where does that happen? And things like reaching out and helping somebody else, which is an imperative part of 12-step programs, is like, I'm going to help somebody else. And you realize, oh, that's really good, but it's really free. I don't have to do it right. We talk a lot about like, you're not going to have to fix everything. You're not going to have to make everything perfect. You don't got to make your daughters think you're the dad of the year all the time, every day. No, I just answer the phone. I just show up. Like, that's a lot.
But thank God.
Right.
So if you're imperfect and you lose your marbles on occasion, and yet you're able to recover and then say, you know what, daughters, please forgive me. I didn't show up the way I should have. And ... What did you just teach your kids? I could be dysregulated. I can use my coping skills. I can apologize and change my behavior and move forward. If I live in a world of perfection, what am I teaching my daughter? You must be perfect to be okay. And then I never show her an emotion. So how is she supposed to learn how to manage her emotions if I'm not managing my emotions?
Right. That's the hardest part is that you're teaching yourself some behaviors, but then you're showing it to other people. Like, you don't even have to say it necessarily. You just see that I respond better, right? And I think the daughter that I fight with the most of my twins, I just respond better. My wife says, like, that went a lot better than it did last time. And that's only because, it didn't go great. It went okay. You know what I mean? Like, it just went okay. And we tend to grow from that. Like, we tend to learn that, wow, okay was just enough. Like a big celebration. I didn't need that. I didn't need balloons. I didn't need a parade. I just needed, like, an attaboy. And that was just enough. And
did you celebrate yourself, though?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right.
So how many of us, like, celebrate ourselves? Be like, I did a good job.
Yeah.
Whatever way that looks.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of empowerment goes into that, where somebody listening right now is thinking, I haven't really done anything amazing to me, right? Like if you showed up, if you didn't do a behavior that you didn't want to do, if you were able to participate in your life in some fashion, right? And again, if it was just today's day one, we have somebody, I guarantee, that's listening to our podcast that's saying this is the first day that I'm going to not do or do something that they want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
How you eat an elephant, one bite at a time,
yeah,
right? Just one bite at a time. And today they're on day one. What are you saying to them?
Congratulations.
You won.
Celebrate every win. There is a win in everything. Even if it's depression, and all I could do today, because I've been in bed for a week and got matted hair and not okay, I got up and I walked to the kitchen. That's a win, right? The win is I got up, I made my bed, and then I got back in it. You made your bed. That was more than you could do yesterday. And the more I celebrate my wins, I don't care if it's I just closed a multi-million-dollar deal or I showed up for work on time. They're wins for me. And when I continue to sit in that place of acknowledging that I'm doing extraordinary things, regardless if it's small or big, to me it's important, right? Not the way other people perceive that. And it was well, yeah, you showed up at work like you're supposed to. I can acknowledge that took a lot for me to get here today, right? And for me, a lot of the things are admitting when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Who wants to do that? Yeah. Apologizing. Yep. Right. And today I can do that. And that's a win. I can think, I can call the person, show up and be have luck.
Yeah, I was an idiot. I hate saying I'm an idiot, but I have to say it still.
I acted. You are not, right? I am statements are powerful.
Right.
You are not an idiot. You acted.
Can you say that one more time to your
wife? Wifey.
No. But that's funny because you start, even again, just having this conversation, it's you think about the statements I say about myself actually become my reality and what I'm going to live in. And today, authenticity, I hear that word kind of thrown about, but I think you're talking about that is that I actually believe that about myself. I won. If somebody says to themselves, and they're being honest, because I think there's a part of that where we can trick ourselves into thinking we had victories that maybe we really don't believe we had. They have to be authentic to us. They have to be real. I think there's some part of that that's important for somebody to hear too, that if you believe it's a win, it's a win. But don't lie to yourself thinking you've checked some box, right? We talked a little bit about that before the show of checking boxes isn't necessarily, and I think about in recovery in a 12-step program, a lot of people go through that process and check boxes.
I did the steps.
Yeah,
I got a sponsor.
Right, I did these things. Look at me. But I didn't really authentically think that I cleaned house. Right? I knew I kept some secrets back. I knew I did that. And you're talking about being raw, authentic, deep, digging, that sort of stuff.
And I think, for anybody in their early recovery, they're doing the best they can. So if it's the surface level, great.
Okay.
Celebrate that.
Okay.
And I would encourage you, when are you ready to dig a little deeper? Because it comes for everybody in a different way. So how I showed up 10 years ago and the work that I was able to do based upon who I was and how what I had inside of me to dig deep is very different than who I am today. And I am super willing to go to the scariest places today. However, a decade ago, that was not an option. I don't even think I had a nervous system regulated to dig deep. And so the depth of what I could uncover was topsoil. Right. And I'm getting to the core today, and that takes a while. And so each person is on their own journey, their own experience. And if this is what I can share in my 12-step and this is my fearless and moral inventory today, well, I would hope in 10 years, if you're still in the program and you're doing the work, it's deeper, right? Because you're coming from a different place with different coping skills. You feel safer. You feel more secure, and hopefully your sponsor is someone that is like someone that you can really trust, not just someone that you just met and they're like, I'll be your sponsor, and you're like, okay,
Right.
and you're like, I don't even know what that is.
Right. Exactly.
You're like, they're like, read this book, and you're like, okay, go to 90 meetings, dump ashtrays, make coffee, do this, and everyone's like, oh, okay. And so this layer, the first layer, is a great layer. And that's as much as I could dig deep with what was inside of me. And so celebrate that. And I would hope after doing the work for 10 years, you're getting deeper. And so everyone comes into therapy or into recovery in a different place. And so it has to start where you're at.
Right.
So where I want to take somebody and I want to jump in, I want you crying.
Right.
I would probably scare you.
Yes.
And I have, and some people aren't ready, and I respect that. So people leave therapy, the door's always open, come back. And I know it's not me, it's them. I don't take it personally. Maybe I wasn't the right therapist for them on their journey. That's still not me, it's them. I respect and honor your what you need.
Right.
And if I'm not that great, find somebody else, and I will help you find that right person too.
So you deserve it.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves that opportunity. Talk to me about that. We're going to do the shameless plugs right now. How do I find you, Michelle? Where do I go? What do I do? What is the best way to contact you? If some of our listeners in the Phoenix area thought, hey, Michelle seems super cool and I'd like to talk to her and let her make me cry, where do they find you? How does that go?
So yeah, Michelle Lee Wellness is my company where we provide more holistic approach with yoga, yoga nidra, and other energy modalities. And I do mental health therapy out of Shule Wellness in Paradise Valley.
Okay.
So it's concierge psychiatry in Paradise Valley. And then my energy work is Michelle Lee Wellness.
MichelleLeeWellness.com, right?
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. I think I got that right. You didn't start so great. I just want to tell you today, thanks for joining us, and please take that first step into peeling back the layers, the topsoil. If that's all you're going to be able to do today, great. But if you're ready to dig in deeper, please subscribe, follow our channel, obviously, but also get in touch with a therapist. Be willing to discover more about yourself today than you were yesterday. Thanks for joining us.